Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to my review of tonight's edition of Monday Night Raw. And tonight's Raw was held from Scotia Bank Arena in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And I gotta say, tonight's Raw, it was another rawful show. It was a fucking awful show. It was a piece of shit show. Fucking diarrhea-inducing edition of Monday Night Raw. Absolute fucking shit show. Tonight's Raw was. Well, you know, it's Raw. So, but the show opened up tonight with, of course, you know, this guy. You know, if he opens Raw, you know, you're in for a terrible open to the show. Lo and behold, show opens with Roman Reigns coming out. Came out to a crowd full of boos, of course. And he's in the ring. He's saying, you know, he told Braun Strowman that he would be out at 8 o'clock. And, you know, he goes, oh, it's 8:05 already. So. And Roman says, you know, he didn't win the Universal Championship to stay in the ring with it. He says he won the title to defend it. And so Braun Strowman ends up coming out. He ends up questioning the notion that Roman is the workhorse of the Shield. Oh man, when I heard that, I had to laugh about that, because Roman is not the workhorse for the Shield. If I had to say who the workhorse of the Shield is, it's probably Seth Rollins, in my opinion. But yeah, so he said that, Strowman said that, you know, that Roman is a workhorse because, you know, Seth and Dean had to come out to save him last week. Of course, you know, the Roman agenda with WWE. And Roman ends up telling Strowman that the Shield is a brotherhood and that nobody tells them what to do. Not even, you know, Strowman. And he also tells Strowman, you know, if he wants to be on his level, he needs to step up, be a man, and cash in the Money in the Bank contract tonight. And so Braun Strowman ends up saying to Roman, oh, I'm not cashing it in tonight, because everyone knows, you know, if I did, you know, Seth and Dean would come and save, you know, you again. So, Strowman ends up telling Roman, you know, he's going to cash it in at Hell in a Cell. And all he says is for Roman to show up at Hell in a Cell, because they will be in a Hell in a Cell match where Seth and Dean can't interfere. So Roman ends up telling Strowman, you know, that, you know, Strowman sounded just like a monster. And they both end up shaking hands. And so out comes Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre. Dolph says, you know, how at SummerSlam, you know, when Seth and Dean stole his Intercontinental title, which, you know, Dolph ends up calling the crime of the century. And Roman questions Dolph that losing, you know, to Seth's, you know, finish is stealing. Which, you know, technically it's not. And so Dolph says to Roman that Seth is just playing catch up to him. And acting Raw general manager Baron Corbin, of course, you know, Corbin, Stephanie last week announced that Corbin is going to be the acting general manager because they ended up sending Kurt Angle on vacation. So Corbin comes out and says he's making a match between Roman and Braun Strowman official at Hell in a Cell. And so Corbin then makes a main event match tonight, which he claims that Kurt Angle would not have, you know, dreamed about making. And it's going to be Dolph and Drew versus Strowman and Roman. And so Strowman ends up telling, you know, Roman that at Hell in a Cell, he will be taking the Universal Championship. And that tonight, Dolph and Drew are going to get these hands. So, but yeah, it was a meh opening to the show. And so after that, Corbin was in the ring. Corbin says tonight he will take on Finn once again. God, how many times are we going to see Corbin and Finn go at it? It's been like this for a month. These matches are getting repetitive between the both of them. How many fucking times do we got to see Corbin and Finn? How many? I've lost count on how many matches that we've seen before with the both of them. What is this, like their 6th match? Maybe wrong on that. It's getting repetitive between Corbin and Finn. So Corbin said, like I said, Corbin says he will take on Finn again, and he says he took a week to prepare for this match, and he says the match starts now. So we got the match, Balor versus Corbin, and we've seen it before. Same shit. Finn Balor got the win by disqualification because Corbin ended up hitting him with a chair. So after the match, Corbin says, he has so many jobs as, GM, and he forgot that it was a no DQ match. And so he starts the match over. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And so it's Corbin versus Balor, no DQ. Quick. It was quick. Corbin got the win. End of days on Balor. So, oh man, I don't want to see Corbin and Balor go at it again. I really don't. I don't want this to get any more repetitive. So, it's the same shit. Same fucking shit. Then we saw Titus Worldwide backstage. Titus says to Dana Brooke that she has a match next against Sasha Banks. And I'm like, wow, Dana Brooke is in a match again? After she hasn't been in a match since 9.5 months. So yeah, Dana says to Titus that, it's alright. And, she ends up thanking Titus for the match. And so Apollo says to Titus, what was he thinking of putting her in a match with Sasha? And Titus is like, oh, it's gonna be all right. So yeah, and then we had the match, Sasha versus Dana Brooke. Nothing to say about this match. It was a shitty match, in my opinion. It was a boring match. But we had Bayley out there, along with Sasha. Of course, Apollo and Titus there for Dana. Sasha ended up getting the win with the bank statement on Dana Brooke to score the win. Boring match, in my opinion. Then we had Dean Ambrose backstage with Jinder Mahal and Sunil Sin. They end up coming. Jinder ends up telling Dean that, he can help him and guide him to spirituality, with the whole Shansi, that whole shitty fucking thing that Jinder's doing right now. And finally, we heard Dean Ambrose talk tonight, after, coming back. He hasn't spoken, since returning. Since returning like 2 weeks ago. And so Dean ends up saying, he sees Jinder and himself. And, he did the whole, Dean did the whole, closing the eyes, thing. And, he says he sees Jinder and himself. And he sees himself kicking Jinder in the teeth, breaking his face and ribs. And he goes on to say that Jinder is in great pain and tells him to get out of his face. So that was that. At least we got to see Dean talk. Since him returning, because he hasn't spoken since he returned. So it was cool to see that. Then we had Seth Rollins come out and issues a Intercontinental Championship Open Challenge. So Kevin Owens ends up coming out, and he says he's so glad Seth is happy, and that since he came to Raw, his life has been a living hell. And he talks about Seth having Dean by his side at SummerSlam, and he goes to say if he had Sami Zayn by his side, he claims he would have beaten Braun Strowman, cashed in the Money in the Bank, and won the Universal Championship. But he's not that. He's not Universal Champion because Sami Zayn is home with an injury. He ends up saying. And he says, the summer has been terrible, but it ends tonight because he's not going to be leaving the arena without a title. So Kevin Owens steps up and takes the challenge, and we have the match. Seth Rollins versus Kevin Owens for the Intercontinental Championship. And this was a good match. This was the best match of the night, in my opinion. This was the only best match of the night. It was just a great match between Seth and Kevin. The crowd was really into this match. I really liked this match. It was enjoyable. But Seth Rollins ended up winning the match. He ended up hitting the stomp to Kevin Owens. So Seth Rollins wins, still retains the Intercontinental Championship. But all in all, it was the best match of the night, the only best match of the night. I really enjoyed this match, and the crowd was really into it. Was really into this match, and very entertaining match. And then we had Strowman end up coming in. He ends up giving Corbin his Money in the Bank contract, and he tells Corbin to bring it to Hell in a Cell. So I guess this means that Strowman is cashing in the contract already, and then it's going to be, the match is going to be made official for the Universal Championship at Hell in a Cell. So that's probably going to happen. So then when Raw came back from the commercial, Kevin Owens was sitting in the ring. The crowd was cheering for him, for Kevin Owens, because of course he's Canadian. He's from Canada, and so that's why that Kevin Owens came out and answered to Seth Rollins' open challenge, because it's in Canada, it's in Toronto. So, but Kevin Owens was in the ring, and you just say, and you had that that sort of upset look on his face, and he ends up saying, I quit. And then he just leaves the ring. So I guess this is a chance for them to write Kevin Owens off. Kevin Owens is probably going to be taking some time off. So that's the case. Then we had Renee Young interviewing Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre going into the match tonight. Dolph says, to change the game, they got to make moves, and tonight, both him and Drew are going to make it to the top of the mountain. Sorry about that, but I was saying, Dolph was saying that they have to change the game. Both him and Drew have to change the game, and they got to make moves. And he said tonight they're gonna, we were gonna see him and Drew, both make it to the top of the mountain. McIntyre says Reigns had, back-to-back title matches last week. and there's no way his body is right for that now. And he ends up going on to say that Strowman came up empty on those two cash-ins. So Drew says there's no way his mind is right. Now there's no way that Strong's mind is right. And Dolph ends up saying with their match at Hell in a Cell, there's no way that that team is right between Roman and Strowman. So that was pretty much the interview with Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre. Sorry about that again, but next match, it was the Revival versus the B Team. Same old match. We've seen this before. This is another match this is another match between these tag teams that are getting repetitive. But the Revival ended up getting the win with the Shatter Machine on Curtis Axel. So, and after the match, the Revival then hits a Shatter Machine to Bo Dallas. They end up taking the Raw Tag Team Championships. And they get on the mic and say, this whole tag team division is a joke because of the B Team. And they both tell the B Team, to hold on to the titles tight. And, they proved that they can take them away anytime they like. And so next week we're getting another rematch between them for the Raw Tag Team Championships. Yay, let's see how this goes. Can I already tell right now? I'm calling it right now. B Team retains. So, calling that right now. Why? Oh my God, these matches are getting repetitive between them. Repetitive. Then we had, this I have to say, the best segment of the night. We had Elias. Yeah, Elias. He was out there playing a few bars on his guitar. And he starts talking about how he's going to sing his greatest song. But, he just had an epiphany, an epiphany, and when, he was like, oh yeah, when Drake's, he talks about Drake saying, how he started from the bottom. He was literally talking about, here, which Elias then starts talking trash about Toronto. He ends up saying, about, what a disappointment it was going from New York last week to Toronto this week. And then he gets interrupted by none other than WWE Hall of Famer Trish Stratus. And it was very unpredictable, with Trish Stratus coming and returning. So I didn't expect it. So Trish Stratus ends up coming out. Elias says, it's great that she took a minute away from changing diapers to do something, important, like being in the ring with him. And he ends up telling her, he's kind of a big deal now. And so Trish says to Elias, she is a big fan of his music. And she ends up telling him, when you run your mouth about, Toronto, she ends up telling him, she'll have to ask you to silence your cell phones, hold your applause, and shut your mouth, is what she told Elias. And Elias says, he's just speaking the truth. And the performance here is like, the Stanley Cup, which he ends up saying, Toronto will never see, another Stanley Cup in their lifetime. And so Trish says to Elias that, it's kind of like him not winning a title in WWE. I mean, can you imagine Elias being champion, holding a title in WWE, holding a title? Oh God, I dread for that day. And Trish says, in just a few short months, she'll be lacing up her boots to take on Alexa Bliss in the ring, which is happening at Evolution. And Elias ends up telling Trish if it's going to be a swimsuit model pillow fight. Trish ends up saying, to him that, that's clever, but it's time. She ends up saying, it's time for Elias to pack up his guitar and get out of the ring. And Elias says, the reason that Trish came out is, for her to walk with him, like thousands of other women. And he ends up saying to Trish, he breaks it to her that, he doesn't date women in their 60s. And so we see Trish end up slapping Elias. And then out came Ronda Rousey and Natalya. And then Raw went to commercial. Sorry about that again. But we had Ronda Rousey and Natalya come out. Raw went to commercial. Then we had Trish Stratus, Ronda Rousey, and Natalya were out there, which Natalya was going to be taking on Alicia Fox. And so Alexa Bliss and Alicia Fox come out, and Alexa says, what a Raw moment this is with Trish Stratus, Ronda Rousey, and Natalya, all three of them, in the ring. And Alexa says to Trish, that she looks fantastic, and she ends up telling her to take advice from the woman that replaced her. And she ends up saying to Trish that all the yoga, stretching, and meditation won't save her from, their match, from her beatdown at Evolution, which takes place on the 28th of October. And so Alexa then says to Ronda that, she won the title, but she failed to break her arm, so she wouldn't have to face her again. And Alexa says, oh, she's the goddess, and, she's medically cleared. And so Alexa invokes her rematch clause at Hell in a Cell. And she ends up telling Ronda that she's going to take her title back. So yeah, we got another match for Hell in a Cell. Alexa versus Ronda, rematch for the Raw Women's Championship. So then we had before the match we had Mickie James end up returning. So yeah, so Mickie James has been gone for a few weeks. So she ended up coming back tonight with Alexa and Alicia. And then the match got underway. Natalya versus Alicia Fox. And it was a meh match. It was a pretty much boring match in my opinion, but gotta give it to Natalya. The crowd really enjoyed Natalya, especially after Jim the Anvil Neidhart, her father, ended up passing away. And you can tell that this match was dedicated to, that she dedicated this match to him. So, but Natalya ended up getting the win with the sharpshooter on Alicia Fox. So, but all in all, it was a meh match. And then we had, after that, we had Trish Stratus, Ronda Rousey, and Natalya. They were backstage. The Bella Twins, Nikki and Brie, are there. Brie ends up saying to the three of them that they talked to Baron Corbin, and she says next week on Raw they are back in action. Both the Bella Twins. So the Bellas, even though Brie appeared on SmackDown last week when she ended up slapping the Miz and putting the beat down on Miz, and Daniel Bryan ended up clotheslining Miz out of there. I guess the Bellas have a like the John Cena type sort of contract where pretty much they're free agents, the Bellas. So it was announced that next week the Bellas, for their in-ring return, they're going to be taking on the Riot Squad next week. So yeah, so the Bellas are pretty much, free agents. So then we saw Corbin was on the phone with Stephanie. He ends up telling Stephanie that he will talk to Kevin Owens and figure out this whole thing. And we see he ends up telling the crew member to get a masseuse in his office ASAP. Bobby Lashley ends up coming in, makes fun of him for being banged up, last week, and he criticized him for making the match, his match with Finn, no DQ match in the middle, in the middle of the match, and Corbin ends up telling Lashley, he got a match tonight, and Lashley ends up telling Corbin, who is it? Who is he going to be facing? And so Corbin ends up telling Lashley, he's got a lot of work, and, he can't remember the name. And so Raw went to commercial. Then when Raw came back, Bobby Lashley made his entrance out to the ring. Corbin shows up on the Titantron and says, to Lashley that, he has 2 opponents tonight, because it's going to be a handicap match. And so the handicap match is Bobby Lashley versus the Ascension. So it was just a squash match. This match was a squash match. Bobby Lashley ended up taking down both Connor and Victor. It's sad about the Ascension, how low they have gone on the main roster. But Bobby Lashley ended up winning the match, of course. Hit the vertical suplex to Victor. So, it was a shit match. It was a squash match. And then we had more shit. We had another shitty match. We had Dean Ambrose versus Jinder Mahal. It was a shit match, in my opinion. Dean Ambrose ended up getting the win with the Dirty Deeds on Jinder Mahal. Score the win. Shit match. Then we had Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman in the locker room. Strowman says, he knows Roman doesn't like him, and that he doesn't like Roman. And he says, tonight Drew and Dolph are going to be slaughtered. And then Roman will have 20 days to think about losing, his title at Hell in a Cell. Roman ends up saying to Strowman, on day 21, he'll wake up and realize he couldn't get the job done. So that was the locker room segment with them. Then we have the main event. Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns versus Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre. This was an okay main event. Wasn't a great main event by any means, though, but it was entertaining with Braun Strowman in it. But the match ended in a disqualification because Dolph and Drew were stomping away at Roman. Braun Strowman was just standing there. Braun then gets in the ring, headbutts Roman, and Braun ends up saying to Roman that he's not finished with him. Then it's a 3-on-1 takeover, meaning Dolph, Drew, and Braun were stomping away on Roman. Dean Ambrose ends up coming out, trying to make the save. But the 3-on-1 beatdown ended up taking place on Dean. Dolph and Drew then hit the Claymore zigzag combo to Dean Ambrose. Seth Rollins ends up coming out, but ends up taking a zigzag from Dolph. Strowman then hits a running power slam to Seth, and he does one to Dean. And you can't forget Roman. Braun ends up doing the running power slam to Roman, of course. And we see the show end with Braun raising Drew and Dolph's hands, meaning that Braun Strowman is now a heel. And this makes no sense whatsoever. WWE is turning Braun Strowman, heel when he's over with the crowd. The crowd loves him, but they don't turn a guy who gets booed every week, and we don't want to see him. That guy is Roman Reigns. So you mean to tell me that you rather turn Braun heel when everybody, like I said, when everybody loves him, the crowd loves him, he's good as a face. He has a special sense to him as a baby face. I don't know, there was something special with Braun Strowman as a baby face. So the reason why WWE is doing this is for the goddamn Roman agenda, to cater to Roman, for us to cheer for Roman. It's not gonna happen. No matter how many times Vince tries to do it, and no matter how many times Vince tries to get us to cheer Roman and make us cheer for Roman, it's not gonna happen. This doesn't make any sense whatsoever. This is gonna be, this is gonna go the same route as when they made Becky, where Becky Lynch is now at, WWE making her a heel. This is where I sense this is going. The Becky Lynch heel turn is not going to work out because the crowd, if you saw last week, the crowd ended up cheering for Becky. They were behind Becky. This is going to go the same route with Braun Strowman. Definitely, I see this happening. This is going to happen. Watch come next week. The crowd is going to be cheering for Strowman. It's going to have the same effect as Becky on SmackDown. So, yeah, so this, like I said, this doesn't make any fucking sense whatsoever. It's just the Roman agenda for the fans for the fans to cater to Roman. This fucking thing pissed me off after Raw was over, because how could you turn Braun Strowman heel when you can't do it for Roman, where he gets booed every single week, every single Monday. He gets heat from the crowd, and you don't turn Roman heel. Oh my God Almighty, man! It's fucking ridiculous. This was fucking ridiculous. So, yeah, so anyways, the main event, it was okay. It was an okay main event. Wasn't a great main event by any means, though. Up until the DQ. But man, still catering to Roman. So, yeah. So, anyways, that's it for my review of tonight's edition of Monday Night Raw. Thank you all for watching, and hopefully SmackDown will be a much better show tomorrow. Hopefully it is. So yeah, so give this video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you all back here tomorrow night for my SmackDown review.